Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. In my opinion, watchmaking is equal parts technical ingenuity and creative craftsmanship. The technical ingenuity is often hidden with incredible complications and gear train designs, whereas the artisanal skills are shown off through intricate dial work. When you think handmade enamel dials, you often think of very high end timepieces upwards of $5,000. But tucked away in the gloomy town of Glasgow in Scotland are a team of trained artists that have been quietly producing breathtaking enamel dialed watches that are consistently getting better and more popular. Anordain have even recently made their way into the Museum of Modern Art in New York, which is a terrific accomplishment. Watchmaking isn't the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Scotland, though, and that's probably because the thought of true Scotsmen wearing nothing under their kilts has left some scars in my imagination. But Anordain is here to try and fix that with their beautiful dials, and even before checking out one of these watches, I consider them to be one of the few microbrands that are truly original and are unique enough to deserve your patronage. Today I'll be looking at the Grey Model 2, which was perhaps inspired by the wonderfully cheerful city of Glasgow, and has a retail price of around $1,300. Let's check it out. The case measures 46.75mm in diameter, 43mm from lug to lug, and 11mm in height. The case is made of stainless steel and is entirely brushed. I think the finishing is great and it feels very well built overall. The lugs appear to grow out of the case with an interesting combination of angled surfaces and curves, making it quite unusual, but one that looks and feels great. The lugs don't curve down much, but given the 11mm height, I think that's okay. The lug width is 18mm, which is appropriate given the diameter and lug to lug width. There is a short brushed bezel section that seats a flat sapphire crystal with AR coating on the lower surface. There is a signed 6mm push-pull crown that is protected by a very well-designed and comfortable crown guard layout that is similar to some of the Ichlo cases that I've reviewed. Really well-executed stuff here, and the crown has no wobble whatsoever. Flipping it over, you have a slightly curved screw-down case back. This watch is rated for up to 50 meters of water resistance. I'm almost 99% certain that the dial is the reason you've decided to watch this review, so let's get to it. This dial is created using a vitreous enameling technique, which essentially means that the enamel is created upon a metal layer, copper in this case, by adding layer upon layer of enamel at around 800 degrees Celsius. When you buy an Anordain watch, you're getting a dial that was handmade by trained jewelers, and not something that was vomited out of a factory somewhere by the hundreds. Given the handmade nature of this craft and given the price tag, to expect absolute perfection in the dial finish is a bit unreasonable, and I did notice some areas of unevenness on the dial surface and maybe one or two particles that shouldn't have been there. The rest of the dial design is fairly straightforward. The Model 2 is inspired by field watches and has printed Arabic numerals for all the even hours and rectangular ticks for the odd ones. They appear to be printed in black and filled with some kind of silvery grey paint. The quality of printing is reasonably good. The hands appear to be well finished and have a skeleton-like construction with loom tips. I like the raw unfinished texture of the hands, and I think it adds to the old world charm of this watch. I didn't bother with a separate section about loom since the loom tips aren't really worth talking about. Overall, I love the dial, and I think the enamel is wonderful to look at with so much depth and texture. And let me just say that this grey dial is among their more restrained colors and textures. Their fumé dials must be a treat to look at in person. The Model 2 uses a Sellita SW210-1, similar to the Ming 1701 that I recently reviewed. I really enjoy this movement and I find the operating experience to be very good, with excellent crown action and great timekeeping. I put this watch on my time grapher and noted about plus or minus 2 seconds per day. There was more variance that I would like to see, but good numbers overall. While I don't have a problem with smaller watches, I prefer the small watch aesthetic for dressier pieces. The Model 2 has a solid, almost tool watch case with impressive build quality. That robust design, coupled with the 36.75mm diameter and 43mm lug to lug width, make it feel a bit too small even on my narrow 6 1/4 inch wrist. But if you just prefer smaller watches in general, this is an excellent watch to consider. The 11mm case height and well-balanced case back and lug design allow it to sit low on the wrist and makes for a very comfortable wrist experience. So no complaints from me in terms of comfort, and I think the overall 65-gram weight suits this case perfectly. This watch came to me on their suede strap, which is very comfortable and has signed hardware. If you don't mind the small case and classic dress watch proportions, this is an easy watch to recommend. The case design and build quality are spot on, and the dial is gorgeous and unlike anything you'll find elsewhere. This dial was a bit hard to capture, but I'll say that it looks significantly more impressive in person. At close to $1,300 new, this is an expensive watch, but given the amount of work that went into making this dial, the finishing, and the build quality, I think Anordain have earned their right to charge these prices. They didn't really cut corners anywhere in terms of components either, and they tick off the originality box as well. I wouldn't advise this as a first watch to someone jumping into the madness that is watch collecting, since you probably want to check off some other boxes first. But this is one that is easy to justify adding to a medium or large size collection. As always, thanks for watching and don't forget to read my other reviews in the link below.